Welcome to the Disruptive podcast. To be disruptive means to cause radical change through innovative thinking, and that's exactly what I want to help you do. My name is Haley Davidson, and I'll be your host. I left the corporate world at 23, built a thriving freelance business from the ground up, to have traveled the world, and now I'm here to share my story and the stories of other incredible disruptors with you. Every week we'll be bringing you the inspiration and actionable advice you need to make radical change in your life, whether that's quitting your 9-to-5 or getting your first freelance client. Be sure to join our email list using the link in the show notes to stay up to date on all things disruptive. Hello and welcome to the Disruptive podcast. I can't believe I'm creating a second episode right now. I'm so grateful for all of your amazing feedback on episode 1. It feels amazing to be able to come here and share my story with you so authentically. And I'm really grateful for this community that we're already building. So before we dive in, I'm excited to announce that I'm hosting a live virtual event about leveraging AI in your content marketing. The event's going to be on Thursday, February 16th at 12 p.m. And I'm hosting this event because since ChatGPT launched, I've had a lot of conversations with marketers and entrepreneurs and writers and noticed a common theme. AI advancements are overwhelming, intimidating, and too many people would rather ignore the chatter than embrace these changes. I totally understand, and that was me at first also. But the problem is that if you don't start implementing AI ASAP and just getting on board with it, then you're going to fall behind and it will become next to impossible to catch up. That's why I'm hosting this event, to give you actionable steps to implementing AI tools into your content strategy starting right now. I'll be sharing why AI is a good thing for all of us, yes, even copywriters, and what mistakes you should avoid as you use these tools. Leaders who pivot quickly and embrace change are the ones who are going to succeed in the long term. So join us on February 16th at 12 p.m. ET to learn how to leverage AI tools to skyrocket your content marketing. Can't wait to see you there. So in episode 2, I want to give you a little overview of life after the 9-to-5, talk to you about the ups and downs, the roller coaster of entrepreneurship, and what my business looks like today. But more importantly, I want to give you 4 of the key lessons that I've had to learn over this year and even before I quit my job that have really contributed to my success. So whether you are an aspiring freelancer, an entrepreneur, a founder, or you're just looking to live life a little bit more disruptively, then I think that you're really going to enjoy these 4 lessons. Okay, so just to rewind a bit, the last time we talked, I was telling you about how I was in Medellin, Colombia, working my corporate job and also trying to build a freelance business. And then in April of 2022, I was finally able to quit my job and go full-time, baby. And it was amazing. And so let's just talk through kind of what life was like after that, so you can hear my story. But I don't want to bore you guys, so I'm also going to get into those 4 lessons here in a few minutes, so don't worry. So basically, after Medellin in April, I went back to Atlanta to just kind of get my life in order and save up some more money. Then throughout the summer, I was all over the place. Mexico City, New York, Canada, California, Las Vegas. It was really cool. It was so fun. I was becoming addicted to this life. It was like everything was falling into place at one time, and my vision was really coming to fruition. The best part was that I was consistently making the same or more than I had at my 9-to-5 while really working part-time and, again, living my best life, traveling. So I specifically want to mention the month that I was in Mexico City. It was really the first time that I went all in on being a digital nomad. I got an apartment for a month and it was gorgeous. It was in this co-living space, so I was meeting other digital nomads. We would share the kitchen and then we each had our own private room and bathroom. And I miss that place now that I'm talking about it. It was so amazing. I essentially was working 15 to 25 hours per week, either in my apartment or at a local WeWork. I was taking Spanish classes. I was meeting and hanging out with new friends. Mexico friends, you know who you are. It was incredible. We had so much fun. And the downside of all that, though, like just to talk a little bit about the digital nomad life, Mexico was a really culturally challenging experience for me. I was really burnt out on Spanish after 3 months in Colombia, and I didn't realize it, but it was just such a struggle with the classes and speaking every day in Spanish. I was also spending a lot of time writing, which was good because I had a lot of work, but when you write long form content, it can require a lot of focus and be very creatively draining. I was also struggling with like food and water in Mexico because I'm sure that, it's totally normal and fine, and my friends had no problem, but that was like a me problem for sure. I was just terrified of getting food poisoning, so I just made things harder on myself. But I don't know, all that kind of made it a little tough for me, even though I was really enjoying it and enjoying like the whole experience of obviously being in a foreign country and being in an amazing city like Mexico City. Despite all of that, though, despite all the challenges, I want to also mention that it was my first 10K month. In 1 month from freelancing, I made $10,000. And oh my God, that's insane to say because that was less than 90 days after leaving my corporate job. And again, I was working like basically part-time. So that just goes to show that pushing yourself has really big benefits. I also think that personally for me, all my best freelancing months have been when I was traveling because I thrive when I'm uncomfortable. I thrive when I am overcoming these challenges. So push yourself. You never know what's possible. And I still feel like really proud of myself for that whole experience. But to go back to why it was kind of challenging, the other thing that was kind of on my mind the whole time I was in Mexico was I was wondering what I actually wanted to do. Did I want to keep traveling? Did I want to keep freelancing? Like, where was my direction? Because sometimes, when we make this big shift, we quit the job, we launch the business, we think that's it. But life is really just a series of decisions, and that's why everyone says that you have to enjoy the journey because something is always going to be changing, including what you want is always going to be shifting and adjusting and changing with the times. So I began to realize that freelancing was for sure not my end game. I just don't want to be trading time for money for the rest of my life. And especially freelance writing was just kind of it can just be a lot to do that all day, every day, especially if you're a more visionary, strategic person like I am. So what I've kind of realized now since then is that my dream is for sure to be more of an educator and a coach and a content creator for people who want to get out of that 9-to-5 lifestyle, who feel burnt out, especially young people. I feel like when you're, Gen Z or in your 20s and you don't have commitments, there's absolutely no reason to hold yourself back from at least trying to create income in some other way. I think that the thing that stops us is our parents' expectations, society's expectations, fear, especially, for me, I had a lot of fear about, like I mentioned in the last episode, feeling extremely responsible to be financially successful. And so if I didn't do that right away out of college, then I knew that I would feel like a failure. So anyway, that's kind of my dream. And that's why now we've got the podcast going, the Instagram, we're working on it. So yeah, but as part of that whole journey of discovering that's why I ended up taking a break from traveling and getting an apartment in Atlanta. So all that said, things have been amazing. It's been such a journey, such an adventure. I definitely will be returning to the digital nomad lifestyle one day, but I am glad that right now I have, a home of my own, a solid space to just experience things and build my business. So that's what the end of 2022 looked like. It was an amazing journey of just discovering what I really want, of realizing that you never stop growing, you never stop learning, you never stop changing. And so now I'm going to share with you the four biggest lessons that I learned in that year. And I think whether you're an aspiring freelancer or an entrepreneur or in a 9-to-5, these will really help you understand what it takes to change your life. Change your life, whether that means quitting your job, launching a side hustle, getting in shape, changing your relationships, healing from trauma. I think that whatever kind of change you want to make, these lessons will be applicable. So the first one is about mindset. And I know that I talked a lot about mindset in the first episode, but I just can't emphasize it enough. And as I reflected on the past year, I realized once again how I have accomplished a lot, and I've also stayed sane through it, which is very impressive when you think about all it takes to run a business and everything. So I just can't emphasize enough how important mindset is. So I'm really glad that I spent many years in therapy and training my mind before I tried to become an entrepreneur. In the past 2 years, I've become obsessed with personal development. I've read a lot of books, and I want to share with you that I think that before you even come up with a business idea, before you start researching side hustles, the best place to begin is your mindset. And part of that is expanding what you think is possible and just becoming the type of resilient individual that can go through change, that can put themselves out there, that can accomplish stuff. So here's how I developed what I like to call my unfuckwithable mindset. So I've been reflecting on this idea recently because as I've started putting myself out there, a lot of things have been coming up, whether that's people not liking what I'm posting on social media, or feeling like I'm embarrassing myself, or just being vulnerable in public. It's all really hard. But I have realized that the unfuckwithable mindset is key to the fact that I continue to show up consistently. So here's how I would say that I've developed it. And this has, again, been like a 2 or 3 year process. So the first one is reading just a heck of a lot of books. And you probably knew I was going to say that, and you probably know that, but I want to emphasize it and tell you to go read some damn books. So my favorites, and if I was going to tell you where to start, would probably be Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, or We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. I talk about these books all the time. But the most important thing is just go read a book and, spend your free time doing that. I used to do this thing where I would set a timer and read for 10 minutes every night before I went to bed. And I actually read Atomic Habits recently, and he talked about, I think it's by James Clear. In Atomic Habits, he talked about how attaching a habit to a time and a location is the most effective way to make it happen. So for me, I've always done this instinctively, and now it's cool to know that, it's an actual method. But I used to tell myself, all right, when I get in bed, I'm going to read this book, and I'm going to read it for 10 minutes or, 10 pages, whatever you want to do. And that just triggers your mind to know that's the routine. And it's also, if you spend a lot of time on your phone, it's a great way to replace your phone habit. So I also had developed a habit a long time ago that my phone is always on the other side of the room. I do not lay in bed and scroll. It's just the worst way to damage your sleep. It's the worst way to damage your mind. So reading. Okay. Also, podcasts. I realized I spend all this time driving around, doing chores, doing whatever. I should listen to some podcasts, some education. Again, maybe I should create a post about all my favorite podcasts that have changed my life. I could think of a million right now. But the most important thing to recognize is, once again, what do you need to learn? What do you want to learn about, becoming more self-aware, believing in what's possible for you, improving your money mindset, and then going and finding podcasts that will really help you with that. So another one is meditation. I actually was never one for meditation, and I was always like, oh, that works for some people, but not for me. And then right before I quit my job, of course, I was having a lot of anxiety. And so I decided just to give it a try. There's a really great app called Waking Up, and I can't remember right now who created it, but I'll try to include the link somewhere if I can. But it's Waking Up, and it has a whole introductory course that is something like 25 meditations. And he walks you through they're very short meditations. They're only 10 minutes. And he also walks you through the theory of meditation and the science. And it's really powerful because it makes you realize oh, meditation can actually change my brain, or oh, meditation can give me this. And it has just been such a transformative practice for me. Also, when I detached from the need to meditate every single day, that helped a lot. And actually telling myself, well, I don't need to do it every day, but every once in a while, a few times a week is going to be my goal. I actually started turning to meditation as a tool when I was feeling overwhelmed or feeling anxious, and that's been really powerful. And now I do try to do it every day. I actually found this like 3-minute meditation on Spotify, and that's another thing that James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits is start with 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 1 minute as your habit. So now every day before I turn my coffee on in the Keurig or in my coffee pot, then I go sit in my meditation chair and then I meditate for 3 minutes using this audio. And it's been great. I've been doing it every day because it's so short. I'll increase the time one day, but some other things are journaling daily. That I can't really speak to how to create that habit because I've just done it forever and I'll go insane if I didn't write my thoughts down. And I'm a writer, so it just comes naturally to me, but it's a good habit. Then I also began working out 4 to 5 times a week. That was huge because for me, the thing with working out wasn't that I, hated my body or that I was desperate to lose weight. Those things helped, of course, to have those outcomes. I did lose weight. I did whatever. I like my appearance better now. But the most important thing for me with working out was proving to myself that I could be consistent and actually achieve a goal. And so now, I look at the past year and I've worked out consistently for a year, which is insane for me. I've never been consistent. And I think, okay, well, I can do anything now. I can do this I can be consistent with my business. I can be consistent with my relationships. I can be consistent with my habits. All right. The last thing is, I don't know if anyone's talked about this before, and I don't know if people are going to like it, but it helps me. So I curate my music very closely. I used to listen to Sad Girl. I'm all about some Chelsea Cutler, crying in the car, angry music, and I used to be all about it. But what I noticed is that I was just giving in to my negative emotions over and over and over again. So I created a couple of playlists on Spotify that I literally labeled high vibrations, and I listen to only that 90% of the time. And it's mostly rap because I love some rap, and they talk about coming up, rising up from started from the bottom, now I'm here, and that's what I'm all about. So a lot of really intentional listening to music. I do listen to my sad girl music every once in a while, but it's very intentional. It's like, okay, I need to cry today, so I'm going to do that. And then the last thing is I curated my social media feeds and my relationships so that 90% of what I hear and see on a daily basis supports my vision for my life and the mindset I'm trying to cultivate. And that was challenging at first, especially the part about cultivating and curating my relationships. But I think it's really important, and we can't ignore that when it comes to improving our mindset. If you're always hanging out with negative people who only drink, who don't have a bigger plan for their life, that's going to affect you. So that's been really big for me in my mindset, is just being very careful about who I listen to and who I spend time with. Basically, all of this mindset work has made me more self-aware and make me feel more empowered in my daily life to just get through the roller coaster, because it is a roller coaster. And that brings me to my next point, which is that risk is unavoidable. And when we're talking specifically about entrepreneurship, and if you're considering quitting your job or starting a business or whatever, I want you to understand before you go into it that no matter how much you have in savings, no matter how many clients you have, no matter how big your network is, how many skills you have, nothing is guaranteed. It can all go away in an instant. And that mindset kind of sucks, but it's also kind of empowering because it also applies to your regular life. You could get laid off at any moment. That's why I always emphasize having a really strong vision and a really strong, clear desire before anything else. You have to ask yourself if that vision is strong enough and important enough to you that you're willing to risk everything for it. And mine really was. I was just so miserable in my life that I was willing to risk it all. And so for me, taking the risk of quitting my job was huge. It was definitely a risk. Nothing was guaranteed. But also, ever since I quit my job, I thought that was going to be the only risk, but I have taken a lot of risks since then. So Here's an example of that. At the end of last year, I realized that writing content day in and day out was killing me. I'd essentially given myself another job and my time was being directly tied to my money, and I hated it. But I'm a writer, and that's how people know me in my network and in my industry. So I had a really tough choice to make. Keep saying yes to all of these jobs for a short-term gain, for money that I need right now, or choose to focus on developing a business that I really enjoy and love. And let me tell you, entrepreneurship is just a huge game of risk and of risk management. Every day, there's new risks to consider. Should I make that investment? Should I work with that person? Should I take that job, take that client? So for me, in this instance, I did not want to take the risk. I was, really focused on making money, and I had just moved into my new apartment. So I'm like, wow, now I've got rent to pay every month. So I wanted to keep saying yes to these jobs and just keep going the way I was going. And in fact, at the end of last year, I was on the edge of closing a $7,000 contract, recurring revenue, retainer, the definition of stability. It was going to be amazing. I was so happy. The client was great. Everything was looking perfect. The catch was that I'd be spending a lot of time, not full time, but a lot of time every week writing long form content. And I was really tired of that, but I said yes because money, right? I just wanted that stability, because even though you quit your job and you become an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're not still scared and you don't still want stability. What I learned is that the universe has a way of getting you closer to your goals and getting you on the right path, even when you don't feel ready. So guess what happened? Some intervention of the universe. I don't really know what happened with the client, but the contract fell through at the last minute. And because I hadn't been worrying about getting new clients, my income plummeted too. And I had no backup plan. Actually, I had already even been assigned some of the work so that I would be getting paid in January a significant amount. And all of a sudden they pulled that too. A lot of times companies, they adjust their budgets at the end of the year. So this isn't actually that surprising, but I'm a new freelancer, right? So I had to learn that lesson the hard way. But I have now realized, looking back, that honestly it was like I had told people that I wanted to do something and my actions weren't reflecting it. So the universe or God or whoever had to intervene and get me back on that path, which was my true desire. So all that story to say is that that's why mindset comes first. How you respond in these moments define who you are as an entrepreneur, and they define who you are as a person, I believe. And in that moment, it was like God and the universe were asking me, Haley, what do you really want? Because you keep saying you want this, but you're doing this. So I'm going to need you to get clear. And until you do, we're going to put a pause on the flow of money. And that sucks. But unfortunately, we have to learn lessons the hard way sometimes. All right. So just to recap, the lessons were: 1, build your mindset. 2, risk is unavoidable. And now 3, creativity and intuition are your greatest assets. So, like I said, I was being challenged in this moment. But what was really happening was that I was being delivered an opportunity to either expand and get aligned or to shrink. How I responded was that the first day, I cried my eyes out to my accountant, to my community, to my friends. More on that community later. But really, I spent 2 days questioning everything. I thought this was a sign that I should just throw in the towel, get a regular job, whatever. I was like really losing it. But then it was kind of insane. I had built all these good habits and built this mindset, and it just kicked in 2 days after the contract fell through. I realized that, the fear, anxiety, anger were all clouding my judgment and keeping me from taking action in order to resolve an intense situation, which was essentially that my income was going to next to zero. I realized that I needed to go back to all of the good habits that I had: meditation, working out, putting good content in my brain through podcasts. And so that's what I did. I got into a quiet space. I meditated. I asked my intuition and the universe and God and the angels to tell me what to do. And I decided just to be open to anything. It was crazy. As I calmed my mind, I was able to tap into my intuition and get extremely creative. I realized that I had a small runway in which I could take the time I needed to start pivoting my business. Though I might not have client work at the moment, and I didn't, I still had a business. So I went full force into content creation and marketing mode. I reworked my website. I reworked my messaging to attract the new kind of client I wanted to work with. I emailed everyone I knew to tell them about the new direction I wanted to go. And by the way, the new direction was what I had been avoiding, which was pivoting into like more of that coaching and strategy and working with clients on a larger scale versus just always writing and creating the content. I launched this podcast, I started an email list, and I did just about everything I could think of to start attracting new clients and pivoting my business to where I really wanted to go. And guys, the momentum built and built and built. And by mid-January, I had booked a dozen calls with my dream clients so that I could pitch them my new offer. And it's amazing to share this story because I never realized how in that dark moment, as I was trying to figure out what to do, I didn't realize how connected that was to what happened next, which was having all those calls and starting to close new clients and having this experience. All I have to say, the reason that I tell you that creativity and intuition are your greatest assets is because when you use them, instead of accepting anxiety and fear as your normal, you'll surprise yourself by the person you can become. In tough times, we really show ourselves what we can accomplish and who we can be. You'll be shocked by the ideas you can come up with, the moves you can make, the action you can take when you get into a quiet space and begin relying on your intuition. I don't know. I never thought I'd be starting a podcast, putting myself out there as a coach, or meeting with, the founders of incredible tech startups to pitch my services. But what I do know is that these things are all in total alignment with me. And I never thought that I would feel this happy or this much like I'm thriving and doing what I'm supposed to be doing, like I'm in my purpose as I do today. I really, even with all of this struggle, there's nothing like just living in your purpose. I never thought that I could get rid of that voice that always told me, you can do more, you should be doing more. But finally, I've quieted that voice because I just, got into massive action mode. And lesson number 4 is just that community is non-negotiable. You literally cannot accomplish anything without a community of people around you. I've always been a lone wolf. I did not want to accept this lesson. My whole life, I was really proud of being independent. I loved when people called me independent. I wanted to handle my emotions, my struggles, my situation all by myself. I thought that made me cool for some reason. And I also really cared about helping other people. So I just didn't want to be a burden to anyone. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. But the thing is that if you're trying to do something different, like get in shape, freelance, quit your job, show up on social media and embarrass yourself like I'm doing, you need people who understand and are in the same boat, okay? Like your mom is not enough, your best friend is not enough. They can support you for sure. But if you want to be successful, I've realized that at least for me, I cannot do it unless I have people who have the same goals as me and are also taking action towards those goals and that can cheer me on and support me and be there in the struggles. It's so important to have someone who gets it. I'm sorry, but someone who's not an entrepreneur just can't understand the daily struggle and the risks that we take. Just like someone who is trying to get in shape will need other people who are getting in shape to do that because we can help each other and push each other towards our goals when we're in community. So today I would say that I'm very proud of myself for learning to be vulnerable in relationships and show up authentically in community, even though it's been very hard. But here's kind of what that looks like for me today. Maybe it will inspire you to start building your own community. So the first person that I have, shout out, Nisa, you know who you are. I don't know if you listen to this, but I adore you. That is my business bestie. We have, similar goals, similar income, similar businesses. And so we regularly connect and share our roadblocks and cheer each other on. And that relationship was so cool to start building this year because, again, I never realized that's what I was kind of missing in my life, was having someone who really understood the path that I was on. I'm also part of a larger online community that I recommend to everyone who wants to be in the entrepreneur world, and that is called We Should All Be Millionaires, the Club by Rachel Rogers. You guys probably hear me talk about it all the time. I went to their conference in Puerto Rico a couple weeks ago. But this group, listen, I probably would have given up a long time without them because it's just amazing. We have this Facebook group, and whenever something goes wrong, I share it there, and I get like 50 comments telling me that's normal, or you've got this, or I've been there, just keep going. And that's just so incredible, and the value of that cannot be overstated. You also see other people who are like you, but who are a little bit further down the path than you. So they share their success, and it reminds you of what's possible. It's totally life-changing, and I'm so grateful for that community. Also, I joined a gym, which is just like a really cool thing that I never done. And more than being a gym, it's a community, because there's something about being young and just this pressure to party and go out, and that's fine, and I still do it sometimes. But when you're in a community and they're all going to be there at 6 a.m. and they're expecting to see you there, it just gets your butt out of bed, and it encourages you so much. It reminds you that you're not the only one who's making sacrifices and has these goals. The final part here is that I also really, really curate who and what I see on social media. And that might be like an unpopular opinion, and I resisted it for a long time. But what it basically looks like for me today is that I follow a lot of people, Facebook friends with a lot of people, but I have 90% of them muted because I want total control over what enters my mind. And so basically I pay attention to 5 or 6 quote unquote influencers who inspire me and have their own little micro communities that I engage with. And then I also keep up with my closest friends, business colleagues, and things like that. But most importantly, it's just about making sure that if I'm on social media, I am feeling inspired, I'm feeling part of a community, I'm seeing people who get me and who understand me so that I don't feel as lonely. Because the thing is that if you're here listening to this podcast, I'm sure that you're not like most people, and you probably have big goals, and you're probably disruptive. And that can be really lonely. So it's really important to have a community of people who share that and who are like-minded. So thank you for listening to this episode. I hope that one day I can make 20-minute episodes, but I'm just a talker and I spend my days writing. So I really enjoy the opportunity to talk to you and be on video. If you didn't know, we're also on YouTube. Thank you for, being here to listen to these 4 biggest lessons that I've learned over the past year. I hope they inspire you. I hope they teach you something. I hope they encourage you to maybe avoid some of the mistakes that I made, and just to build that mindset and to understand what it takes to really go and be a disruptive kind of person in your life, to be disruptive in your own life. And remember, the definition of disruptive is making radical change. So anyone that's making radical change, it's going to require risk and effort and mindset and community and everything I've mentioned. So thanks again one last time. I'm sending you all the love. Have an amazing week. And if you don't mind, I would love it if you followed us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm still understanding how podcast analytics work. I don't really know how to track the follows, but it seems like a good thing to ask your audience to do in the beginning. So you can follow us there, or you can follow me on Instagram at Haley G. Davidson. And yeah, Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you again for listening and for being part of this community. Don't forget to register for our event all about leveraging AI in your content marketing. That's happening on February 16th at 12 p.m. ET, and you can find the details to register on my Instagram or in the details of this episode. Can't wait to see you there, and have a great day.